Craig. Today, we're going to be going over the 101s of what you need to distill and brew spirits. So what I have here in front of me may look very similar to what you saw in a previous video of how to brew beer and what you need, because most of the stuff is actually interchangeable. What you need here, I have in front of me, is your big stirring spoons, of course, sanitizer, and sanitizer already made up in a spray, your bottle brushes and pipe cleaners, some pipe or flexi tube, some airlocks, some grommets, a hydrometer, brewing buckets, distilling buckets, filter chambers, and of course, if you are stilling, you need a still. Now there are all different types of stills that you can purchase out there. Here in Australia, it is illegal for us to distill any spirits over a 4-litre wash. That just means that you can only do them in small batches because of government legislation that then comes under the fuel excise taxes. And we're not making petrol, we're distilling alcohol. But if you go down those lines, it's very similar on how you distill and how you do other things. So we have here is a air still. I use an air still from Still Spirit, which doesn't actually have a big water chamber that cools the wash down when distilling. It all gets done in the top chamber and gets air cooled and then drips out into your containers. Now, just remembering when you are stilling, you need to make sure when you do your first distilling on the still that you pour off the first bit, because if you don't, that stuff's actually ethanol. I know there are people online that actually use the ethanol off the first pour to run their lawnmowers. So, you know, it is actual petrol. So just be aware that, you know, some parts of the world do produce petrol this way. I think Brazil is one of those countries because they don't have a big oil reserve, so they make ethanol out of sugar. But we are going off topic a little bit here, so we'll go down to the lines of what you need to start making your first wash. Now, I use the word wash here rather than wort. A wash is it's the same thing. It goes in a fermenter bucket, which we have right here. Our fermenter bucket, if you notice, is the same as the one that you saw in the brewing beer. But when you put your stuff in here, you have a lot more sugar, a lot more dextrose sugar, and you use a different type of yeast. Now, this here is my brew bucket that I use that is sitting here empty at the moment. But over in the corner here is one that I prepared a little earlier. It's a little bit heavy. But what's in here is a wash. Already done, all ready to go. All I have to do is put it in the still and still it down. But put that aside, that is heavy. So, you need approximately 7 to 8 kilos of dextrose sugar. You need a distilling yeast. Now, this is a brewing yeast that brews beer or cider that I've got here. It's very small. It is 5 grams, right there. And these two here are distilling yeasts. Now, what's written on them is a turbo yeast. So depending on how long you want to do your spirit and your distilling is the timing that you need and the temperatures you need to gain or reach or maintain, all of those, to how long you actually have your wash down for. So this one here, it recommends getting to turbo powered yeast. You need 6 kilos for 24 hours, or you can use different amounts. But this one's done by Still Spirit. This one here is another brand of yeast products. that is a 48-hour turbo yeast, just here, that helps power through all the sugar. Now, if you notice the size difference between the two of these, this one here is 120 grams. This one here is, just say, I'm presuming it's a very similar weight from what I could feel weight-wise. Doesn't actually say on the front. Very easy for me to read. A couple of different languages. It doesn't actually say how much weight is in this, but it feels very similar to about 200 grams compared to the 5 grams of yeast that we use when we're brewing beer. There are also different types of yeasts that you can also get. These ones do a turbo yeast. You can also get packaged sugar and yeast deals together. All you need is your brew bucket, and off you go for that. So after say 5 days, or after your wash has decided to finish burping away and bubbling away, you need to start stilling it down. Now, my still takes 4 litres and gives off about 750 mils of usable spirit, which then I dilute down to approximately 1 litre, or a little over 1 litre. Also, the first, I think, 200 mils, or sorry, 100 mils or so off the original spirit, I have to take off and throw away because it's ethanol, so that you'll have to make sure you do, because if you don't, you can sort of half poison the people who are going to be drinking the spirits. But after it comes out of this, I put it into a holding container, which also has a carbon filter on it in the top that stops the smell of the alcohol, because it is really potent and strong after it comes out of the still, because it's almost, 40 to 50% proof alcohol. You can never have 100% proof alcohol, because 100% proof alcohol is actually vapor. So you don't want vapored alcohol, and if you can ever smell it, you don't want it to light on fire and explode, like your bootleggers that you see in old moonshiners that blow up their stills and all that kind of stuff, is because the heat that they're producing is decided to ignite the fumes of the alcohol that they're distilling. We don't have that problem here with the still, because it doesn't actually have a flame. It's actually a kettle, realistically. I pop the top of my still, pop it off, pop that out. That's the mechanism that cools it all down and lets the spirit come out. Here, it's just one big pot. One big empty kettle. So this actually boils all up, but we don't just boil whatever you want in there. You have to actually put ceramic beads. These here, this is an unopened packet of ceramic from still spirit that I have purchased in the past. Haven't used. These are ones that I've got in there. These are reusable every single time until they start breaking in half and cracking. They do get broken occasionally, and sometimes they do end up going down your sinkhole when you're emptying out your old wash. I always recommend using a colander so it catches all your little beads. Now, these are ceramic, and you're going, why do you have to put ceramic beads in the bottom of your distilling kettle? Now, the problem is when you, if you ever look at the bottom of a kettle or something, and you notice all the bubbles are all uneven, it's because they're only coming up to the areas where air is being available to boil. And that means the water is boiling away at an uneven rate. With these sitting on the bottom of your kettle, which is this is the part, it helps even out the heating coming up from the bottom of the kettle, which gives you a more constant, regulated boil, so that when the vapors are coming up and going into the top of your still, that they're actually going to be distilled and cooled down at a more even rate. So you actually get a more even, constant spirit coming out of your still, and also it boils off at a more evenly rate. So these, I'm going to put them back in the bottom. There we go. They're all clean, ready to go. But you're thinking, what happens when you boil something on your stove, like say pasta or something, and you've got a lid on the top? What happens? Most of the time, you get bubbles that come up all over the top, and sometimes bubble down the side of the pot. That you don't want in your still, because if this bubbles up and bubbles over, it's going to puncher into the electrical part and maybe short the thing out. Don't want that. So, when you're doing that, we use what's called a distilling conditioner. The distilling conditioner, you put a little bit in each of time you do a boil, which stops the bubbles bubbling up over the top. So it basically is a defoamer that stops all the foam being produced and going up through the top, out through the spout of your still, because we don't want that, because we don't want foam being pushed out through the hole that's supposedly supposed to be cooling down our alcohol that we're wanting to drink. So, distilling conditioner with our ceramic beads in the bottom of our kettle with our still on top helps us produce the spirit that we're going to use. Now, depending on the type of still you've got and what you're using, most of the time people use, I've seen in past where they've got like your tea and coffee stand kind of kettles where they can use those that bubble up, but they still have what's called the still, which is a whole lot of pipes and stuff that are going round and round and round that cools it down and lets it cool down to the temperature it needs to go from a vapor to a liquid again. Some are water cooled, which you have to make sure you regulate your water levels and speed to make sure you're keeping the right temperature in the top. All that kind of stuff for a beginner is a little bit too hard to kind of get everything regulated and want to do. But with an air still that I use, it's more of a plug, play and walk off. So you don't have to keep regulating the temperature because it does it for you. You don't have to keep watching to make sure you've got enough water being pumped through the top of your still to make sure you're keeping it at the right temperature, which is also another hard thing. The bottom of the kettle, you don't have to make sure you're keeping it at the right temperature as well because it regulates it as well. So we don't have to worry about all of those things because the still does it all for us. That's why it has a big reset button on the front and it has two plugs on the back, one for power, one for the still itself. So it turns its fan on and off when it needs to cool itself down and when it doesn't need to. So it does everything for us. That's why I love the Still Spirit Air Still. But there are a couple of different other things you can use to still down your alcohol, but I'm not going to go into those today. I'm just going to basically talk about the air still, your wash, your bucket that you hold all of your filtered alcohol, because after it comes out of here you can't drink it yet, you still got to filter it. This is where I put all of my pre-filtered alcohol. Then we come down to filtering. Now, filtering with an air still is the same as if you're going to be filtering when you don't have an air still. So you're still going to be using carbon. Carbon is usually the best way to get all the poisons and toxins out of the alcohol that you've just stilled so that you can consume it without killing yourself. So what I use here is I actually use the Still Spirit Air Still carbon capsules that go into the top of my bucket that holds my pre-filtered alcohol, and also they go into the bottom of this. Now this here is what I use to filter my alcohol. So my carbon capsules get locked in the bottom. The distilled alcohol goes in the top, all watered down, all ready to go, and it's best to actually water it down before you before you put it through the carbon filter, because it's going to filter the water as well. So, if you've got any impurities in your water, it's also good to do it this way as well. So it goes in the top and it drips. Now, depending on how long it actually takes for the carbon to absorb all the muck and stuff, it sometimes takes anywhere between 2, maybe 3 hours for it to filter through here. So, you know, it's not a commercial pumping out lots of alcohol kind of thing. This is a small consumer product. We're not here to, you know, pump out 12 cases an hour of whatever spirit that we want to make. We're here just so that we can consume it at a lower price than what we are getting taxed at here. In Australia, there's a lot of tax on alcohol here, which makes a bottle of 700 ml, say your basic vodka, anywhere between $30 up to even more than, you know, $100 and something. So spirits here in Australia are phenomenally absorbed in price because of the amount of tax that our government decided to pull off it. So that's why it's always a good idea to do this kind of thing. So here we go. After we've finished distilling this down, we'll put this aside. This here is clear spirit ready to go. So in here, it's ready to drink. To make what we need, I use lots of these empty bottles. These bottles I purchase at my local brew store. You can also get them online. These are 1.125 litre bottles of empty glass bottles. You can get the litre ones, you can get the 700, 750 mils because the government changed the sizes not long ago to different size, so down to a litre rather than 1.125 litres. I still like the 1.125 litre bottles, so I still go with those ones. I have about 20 of those empty bottles that I use and I rotate around. So here we've got a litre. There is a litre of alcohol right here that is ready to be flavoured. Now you're wondering, how do you flavour a plain wash? Now there are a couple of different ways. If you're making a scotch or something, most of those they come out like this, a clear white alcohol, before they actually put them into oak barrels, which mature them, that actually put that colour and the flavour into the spirit. Now, we here aren't going to do an oak or a barrel flavouring because that takes a couple of years. We want to speed up the process because after it's come out of here, you know, it's already been about a week, and we don't want to be any longer than a week because, you know, we've got a barbecue or a party to go to that we want to take a bottle of our own spirits with us. So there are different ways. So I'm just going to clear off the bench here. All right. Well, here's a couple of different things that I use in flavouring my spirits. Here's a long list of one particular company that you can purchase all your little essences off. Now, these are called essences because they actually don't have any alcohol content in them. They're actually just pure flavouring. This one here makes a Southern Comfort style alcohol, which I have a couple of different types of those. Bourbon honey. It's Aussie. Well, I had a couple of different types around here. So what you've got, you can go from a basic whiskey, which is there, to another type of basic whiskey, different brand, to here, which is a whiskey profile kit. Now inside the profile kit, you have a little recipe book, which tells you on how to make different types of imitation bourbons and scotches. Now, in this little kit, it comes with like caramels, and so here is a peat smoke. So that has a peat smoked flavour. You've got oak cask. You've got glycerine, which is a sugar sweetener, sweet vanillin. We've got distilling caramel. So you've got lots of different flavour profiles that you can actually add to make your own whiskey. But not just whiskies you can make with your still spirit. Here we have a imitation vanilla Galliano. So what are you going to say there? You've got your little essence right there. Now it's not just essence that you need to make your spirits. You also need flavouring sugars. Also, sometimes you need to use thickening agents. Let's just say you make what's a thick alcohol? Well, actually, the vanilla Galliano imitation actually is a very thick, sweet alcohol. Now, this here is your basic whitewash. It is unflavoured alcohol, which is very strong. It's 40% at the moment. So to make that down, you would use what's here. This is a red liqueur base C that goes with the still spirit range. And this, and some of that, not all of that, only some, because this is 320 grams, which works out to be about 300 mils. This here is 500 mils, so that's 350 mils, and we're going to be making a 1.125 litre bottle. So you've just got to work out how much you need to have for your volume inside your, say, your 1.125 litre bottle. That you get then mix all together. Now I do recommend using hot water to mix down these sugars because it does take extremely long time. The first time I ever did a spirit with a base that had to thicken it up, it took me almost half an hour with a whisk, try to whisk this thing and get it all dissolved, because it's not just plain dextrose sugar like what you would have in one of your brew buckets. So you can also get this here, if you notice it's a bit thick. This is a triple sec, or an orange liqueur mix. So this mixed with 750 mils of plain wash or plain alcohol, distilled, ready to go, makes a 1.125 litre bottle. So that is already pre-mixed. So that there has both of those already mixed in together. You can get these as well from your local brew stores or online. What else have we got? I think that's about it for the basics you need to distill spirits. Now, we are going to be doing a batch on how to put down your first wash, and also how to use the air still spirit distiller as well. So this is just an introduction on what you need to have to make a good spirit. This has been Brewing with Craig. This has been Brewing with Craig 101 on what you need to have, equipment-wise, to distill spirits. If you've seen anything you like in these videos, make sure you give me a big thumbs up. Don't forget, if you've got any comments, questions, or things I can be doing better in these videos, leave it in the comments field below on YouTube. And if you haven't hit that subscribe button, hit that subscribe button and get notified when I do these Brewing with Craig episodes, my Cooking with Craig episodes, car maintenance, urban explorer, what's in the box, my daily vlogs, you name it, I film it, it ends up on YouTube. So hit that subscribe button. And until next time, see you in the next video.